Oh, here we go again. Still pregnant. Due on the 12th, but you know, I really don't want to go that long. Eggnog cheers to a happy holiday for everyone. Whether you're celebrating Christmas or Hanukkah, happy Hanukkah, or nothing at all, who knows. Happy holidays to everyone. And with that, I'm already canceled by many people. I've said too much. So, Jesus is the reason for the season, and anybody who thinks otherwise is, terrible. So we're going to talk about all those people out there who believe in Santa Claus, rather all the people who tell their kids about Santa and how horrible they are as parents. It's fun to judge people around the holidays, isn't it? I can understand both sides. I understand people who tell their kids the truth because they don't want to be dishonest. I understand that. I understand the parents that tell their kids about Santa for a while because they think it's a magical time. I understand both sides. I'm really not here to give my opinion on that, but I am here to comment on there's a lot of Christian TikToks out there of people very triggered about Santa Claus. I'm gonna start off pretty mild and work my way up through the crazies, so get ready for that. And I hope this video brings a little bit of holiday spirit to you. This is the last video I'm gonna be posting, I think, this year. I have some plans. This seems like sort of a fun topic to end on. And with that, I will start with the first video that I saw about Christians and Santa Claus.
So a bit of an unpopular opinion, but I hear a lot of people tell me that, because we're not going to do Santa with our kids, that we're going to take away the magic of childhood with Christmas for them, and that, that loses all the magic.
I disagree that will lose all the magic. I mean, when I look back on my childhood, yes, I believed in Santa as a kid. I'm thankful that I had that and I have those memories. I really, really enjoyed it. But when I look back now, that's not the thing that I remember loving the most. Like I had my grandmother there that was always so close to me. My grandpa was there, and it was just moments that I know I'll never have back or never get even close to having the chance to relive. And now I sort of see the joy in my son, who's 2, and that's bringing back some excitement and like the family closeness that I once felt. But you grow up, you lose people, and then you look back on these memories, and it's not that you are sad about finding out that Santa wasn't real.
I actually see it completely the opposite way.
I'm just gonna pause this to say something random. I don't know why people, when they make these videos, it's like a thing I see on Instagram Reels or TikTok all the time where people are trying to make a point, but they have to be doing something. Like they have to be knitting a sweater in the background or something for them to be able to do the topic. As though people who are watching have such a short attention span that they need to see like, oh my God, what's she gonna put in the milk next? It's just distracting to me. I would rather have someone just sit down and talk, present your case. I want to hear what you think, but why do I need to watch you froth your milk here?
I think if I taught my kids that Santa was real, and that was where they got their magic of Christmas from, then one day, when they realize Santa's not real, the magic goes with him. And all their memories of, magical things at Christmas, if they're all based in something that they find out was never true, it's going to taint everything. At least it did for me.
Yeah, I'm sorry that she had that experience. Like I said earlier, I didn't. When I look back and, yes, I had a brief moment of being mad when I found out that Santa Claus wasn't real. I was over it. By the next year, I was excited for Christmas again. And then my mom had my sister. I was 11 when she had my sister. And it was pretty recent comparatively that I believed in Santa at that time, and I was still stoked to do it again for my sister. Everybody's different. Everybody has different experiences. I'm not trying to invalidate her experience, but I just also want to say that that's not how I feel. I not at all look back at my childhood memories with my family that I miss dearly every day and feel like it was tainted because, Santa Claus wasn't real, so screw all the rest of that. That's almost funny for me to think about.
My perspective is that if we base the magic of Christmas in who God is and Jesus and celebrating his birth and what he did for us, that magic will never go away.
So, if I were to be honest and look back at all of my memories from Christmas, the biggest thing that sucks for me is that part of it is tainted. And that's the part where I yearly, I was the one chosen to be the angel that was behold, I bring you tidings. That was me every year. And I was pissed about it. There are some really funny pictures. Anyway, and now as an adult, I'm not religious anymore. I'm sure you know that from my channel. That part about Christmas sucks. You know, looking back on my childhood and my memories, there's so much of that that I had to like mentally discard. It gets like brought up again every year. And that part is not my favorite thing.
It'll only get better with time as they understand the gospel more. And I would much rather that be the memories my children are rooted in with Christmas than something that's going to disappear when they're like 8 or 6.
It's really not all that different. I remember the first Christmas of like not doing Santa. It like literally felt the exact same. And I wasn't like depressed all day because I didn't get a present from Santa because I was old enough, right, to not care. Anyway, the biggest takeaway from this video that I want to really emphasize is that her milk and that frother, it did not mix that powder that she put in there. It didn't mix. I stared at it the whole time. I was very distracted. Whatever she did there, it just didn't work. And that's really what I want to focus on. Anyway, I found another lady on TikTok who equally was distracting to me, but for a completely different reason.
We chose not to do Santa Claus with our kids, and this is why. We are not anti Santa Claus as a story. Our kids go sit on Santa's lap. It's a fun story in our home.
So far, no objections. You know, I get it. People might not want to tell their kids that Santa is real, but they still enjoy the stories and the fairy tale part of it. That's perfectly fine. Let's just keep watching.
So kids, hold on, Carol, hold on.
Shut up, Carol. Shh, I'm talking. Mommy's making a video. Shh, kids. I'm sorry. It gets worse.
So kids have a hard time distinguishing fact from fiction, and there's so many stories that they're told when they're little. Easter Bunny, Santa Claus, stories that they read in school. As well as in our home, we tell them about Jesus.
Okay. This happens in so many different videos that I've seen where people will in the same breath jump from Easter Bunny, Santa Claus, Tooth Fairy to Jesus. Now this is something that I've seen a lot of atheist commentators do as well, and that is not received well by the religious people out there. And it's just interesting in this context, they seem like, oh, well, it's okay to like sort of put them all on the same playing field. I don't want to tell my kids about Santa because then when they find out Santa's not real, they're going to equally disbelieve in this other magical entity that I've told them about, which is definitely totally super real. And I'm not saying a lot of people don't believe that, right? I'm not saying that they're lying to their kids about Jesus and religion. That doesn't mean that I personally think that any of it's real. And it's comical to me to see some of the same arguments presented by religious people that I've seen presented by atheists for a long time, but just in such a different context that it's not something that I think is realized, the irony in it.
This happened to my brother in our home growing up. I've heard this happen a lot. And so when he found out that Santa wasn't real, his first question was, oh, then is Jesus not real too? And we didn't want them to come to a crisis like that.
Oh, well, they're coming to a crisis in your back seat right now. Maybe you might want to think about that. Turn around for a second. Put the phone down. Just put it down. Turn the phone off.
So, from the time that they can remember, it was Santa's a story, it's a fun story, and Jesus is real. And there's a huge distinction.
Your kid's like choking in the back seat. You're coughing on something. That's okay. I heard her scream again after that, so I think we're good.
We do gifts, we do food, we do all of the fun things.
Okay. I can't listen to this kid crying in the back anymore. I feel really bad. At least Carol shut the hell up, you know what I mean? But she really just wants to make the distinction that Santa Claus isn't real and Jesus is, because both of these stories must be in her mind equally out there, right? In their plot. So might only want to tell the kids one out there story so that they don't get confused. Let's not confuse our kids, right? Let's just indoctrinate them heavily, but don't teach them about fairy tales that aren't true, about a man who sees what you do all the time. Someone who knows if you're being good or bad so they can make like a list as to, who gets the prize and who doesn't, rewards you with a present if you're good, and punishes you if you're bad. That's just not a story we want to teach our kids. Anyway, I'm gonna hold back a little bit because I'm trying to make this about Santa, but it's just when everyone keeps bringing that point up, it's just hard for me not to point it out. Like, you're sort of calling your own religion on par with the believableness of Santa, which I agree. I'm just surprised you're saying it.
We do gifts, we do food, we do all of the fun things because we're celebrating Jesus's birth.
They still do the family, they still do the presents, they still do the commercialism and, that's fine. No judgment, I do that too. Everybody has their own traditions and that's fine. But you know, this time of year, it can be hard for a lot of people, economically speaking. Holiday shopping is happening hardcore. Like no one's trampling each other at Walmart, I don't think anymore. I think the internet sort of helped that, but it's still an insane amount of spending, which is fine. I mean, so you want to spend money on the people that you love and give them gifts in like a sustainable, ethical way, of course. I mean, the last video I made on Temu is, I think, pretty interesting about the ethics of certain like fast fashion brands or stores, apps, whatever. I just feel like we've been hearing so much about like recession and inflation in the news lately. It becomes very concerning. You're like, well, shit, should I worry about the future? Should I be like really concerned right now? Surprisingly, economic indicators are way better than what headlines would tell you right now. The economy is good for people from all economic levels who are all saving more. This says the US economic growth in the third quarter of 2023 has been better than previously thought. Basically, the figures show that the economy recorded the fastest growth in nearly 2 years. So that's a bit of good news sprinkled into all this depressing crap. Go ahead and buy your family that Christmas present. Don't feel too guilty about it. Unless, of course, you're, you know, of the Muslim faith. And we'll get to that at the end of this video. Don't worry, we're gonna talk about Jews too. This is gonna be a fun one.
It's time to rip off the Band-Aid and tell your kids that Santa Claus is not real. And this is important. And the reason is because if they grew up thinking Santa Claus was real and Jesus is real, because you told them both of them are real, and they realize when they get older that you were lying to them about Santa Claus, they're going to think you were lying to them about Jesus too, and they're going to fall away from the faith.
This is the same argument again, and I have to say, for me, this just was not true. I believed in Santa Claus hardcore. Like, I have this one memory of I fell asleep on the couch downstairs by the Christmas tree because I thought I could like catch Santa coming into our house and leaving a present for me. And then when I woke up in my own bed the next morning, I was very confused. And I was like, oh my God. I came to the conclusion on my own. Nobody told me this, but I'm like, Santa Claus must have seen me asleep on the couch and carried me up the stairs to put me in my bed. And I felt like the most special kid in the world. Santa Claus himself like carried me and tucked me in. Other kids don't always get that. I was so cool. I felt so cool in that moment. I'm telling you, I was invested, right? And I do remember the moment of finding out that there was no Santa Claus and that it was my mom all along. And you know what? I was mad maybe for a couple of hours. And if I thought about it later that day, maybe I was upset. But this was like, I remember it was like the summer. It was like the middle of the year. And by the time it was December, I was like stoked for Christmas and I still wanted to pretend Santa. Like I wanted to play pretend Santa. Like, hey mom, put out a present for me from Santa, wink, wink. Like I was fine. And from that moment on, I played Santa pretend and I enjoyed it as a fictional story, just like I enjoyed all my Disney princess movies that I was very invested in. And it was a fun part of my life. And now, you know, even soon after then, I remember appreciating that my mom allowed me to feel and think that way and live in that magic and enjoy it. But nonetheless, we were Roman Catholic, right? We grew up with a very strict, like regimented, sometimes dark view of Christianity. Those Catholics love to talk about hell. And that was never lost on me. I was always very religious. I would cry thinking about Jesus dying. That was like traumatizing almost. I was the one every year to make sure that like before Christmas dinner, we all made sure to tell baby Jesus happy birthday. And it was always baby Jesus, not adult Jesus, baby Jesus. And that was just always a really important part of it to me. So they were both like very different in that Santa Claus was like more fun and playful, but I didn't feel like the depth of it that I felt for the religious side of it. So losing Santa Claus, like I said, I was over it like that. Losing religion, I'm still healing from that trauma. But this is not that video.
Jesus is the reason for Christmas, not Santa Claus. We should be excited about Jesus, not Santa Claus.
Like, you can't have two things. You can't be happy about two things. You can't be excited about Santa Claus and still love Jesus, like the story I told you about in my experience. It's just that Jesus is, you know, he needs all the spotlight. And if Santa takes any of that credit or any of that spotlight or gives joy when all the joy needs to be coming from God, well, that's just not okay. And just to throw a little bit of an opposite perspective in here, this is an interesting TikTok, I thought.
But my teacher said he's fake.
The teacher said that?
Yes. And she said only your parents give you presents on this Christmas day.
Let me tell you something, my blood pressure is through the roof watching that video, okay? Because it's never the teacher's place.
I have to
really
agree.
isn't their place.
It's really not the teacher's place to do something like that. You should let parents parent their kid as they would like, and just know.
If they believe it, I'm a rock out with them and let them have this little magical time in their life. It's a very short window of time. It's a very short window of time where you can believe in magic. And I love it for them, so I'm gonna let them believe in magic for as long as they want to believe in magic.
See, yeah, it's difficult because, like I said, I hear her and that resonates with me and my experience growing up, and I am really thankful. And honestly, when I look back and think about how much my mom went out of her way to make that magical and special for me, like, I love her even more for it. This is not something that I'm holding on resentment because she lied to me as a kid. Like, I don't view it as like an evil lie, like you're trying to like manipulate your kids or something. Like, I feel like that's what religion is. Like, let's say if deep down you really didn't believe in God, but you were using it as like a controlling mechanism, which I know people who do that shit. I know that anyway, I know many of them. That's not okay. But if you're just trying to let kids be kids and have an imagination and enjoy things, and I don't see that as malicious. And I think most people would be able to grow up with an understanding of how much their parents tried to make that part of their life special. But I also understand people who don't want to have to be dishonest with their kids about anything. I get that too, and I respect that decision. As long as there isn't like a lot of judgment cast at people who do choose to do that, and vice versa. People are going to parent their kids in the way that they see is best. Not everybody's going to agree with it, and not everybody would make the same choices. But I think what we do need to do is just sort of respect that, take a little bit of a back seat to it. And if you're a teacher or another parent or somebody in a position where you're having that conversation with somebody else's kids, just tell them to go talk to their mommy and daddy about it, and don't tell them how to think or feel or what to believe or not. Like, I don't believe in God, right? But I would never, ever tell someone else's kids that that's not like something they should believe. Of course, like, to me that's obvious. Santa Claus is like much lower on the totem pole of the, I guess, severity of that, but still, like, I feel like people should approach just things like that.
I heard of adults say things like, well, I don't want this other person, this make-believe figure getting credit for my hard work. And my position on that is, your kids aren't going to believe in Santa when they're like 30, right? And so you're going to eventually get that credit. Why do you have to have it now? Okay? And why is that so important to you? It's about giving and making your kids happy.
Yeah, I have to agree with her. Like, clearly as an adult now, and even as like 10 years old, when I was old enough to see what my mom had done for me, like, I appreciated her for it. And I still do. And I look back and I think about how, like, she stayed up in the middle of the night to, like, I had this like one tent, this Barbie or this princess tent, I think. She stayed up late to assemble, and she did all these things so I could have that like moment in the morning of getting up and being excited and running down the stairs to see what there was. Like, that was all her. And that makes the memories of it, honestly, even more magical, to think about how much love she put into trying to make my childhood special. Like, that's a cool thing. And going off of what she just said, it's strange to think people need that credit so badly. Like, first of all, there is like the whoa Santa present, but it's not like you don't give your kids presents also throughout the day. And you also have like their birthday and their entire every other day of the year that you can be their hero. Like, I don't see any harm in the fun of that. One present not coming from you and then being like, thanks, mom and dad.
We are talking about Santa Claus. Specifically, I am going to answer the question, should Christians do Santa Claus with their families?
Now we're jumping to YouTube now, obviously. This is Allie Beth Stuckey. Now, I have made a video on her before about how she treated Dave Rubin and his husband when they announced that they were going to be parents. Yeah, so I wasn't too fond of her and the extreme homophobia that came out of her mouth because Jesus, all of it's because Jesus. But here she is, and she's opposed to Santa. And you guessed it. Why is she opposed to Santa? Everybody say it with me. Leave it in the comments. Because Jesus! Yes, that is the reason for everything.
I am a big believer that you are the best parents for your kids, no one else. You know the intricacies of your child's mind, their personality, their needs, and you may find a better way to approach Santa than what I offer you today.
So I appreciate her saying this, and that's sort of similar almost to what I was saying before about just like respecting people on how they choose to approach this particular decision and others in their parenting. Not everybody's going to think the same way. You know, as long as someone's not actively being malicious to their kid and they're doing what they think is best, back off. It's not your kid. So I appreciate her throwing this in at the beginning of the video where she continues to be extremely judgmental towards people who do not choose to do the same thing that she does. It's just, there is a little bit of a hypocritical element to it because of how she speaks from this point forward, but let's just get into that.
I do not believe it is right to tell our children that Santa is a real person living at the North Pole, making a naughty and nice list, and delivering them presents on Christmas.
She goes on to give like a personal life story about how much she loved believing in Santa and how awesome it was. I don't want to include it because this video would last forever, but she went on and on and on about how magical it was and how wonderful it was to have that and have those memories and how she appreciates those memories and how she's not traumatized by it. But it's taking away from Jesus, guys. It is. He needs the whole spotlight.
While I did not develop trust issues that I know of with my parents or question the existence of God because of the revelation that Santa isn't real, I do think that could be an outcome for some children. Every child is different. Could sow unnecessary doubt about the existence of God. Because Santa, if you think about it, is almost a perverted version of the God of the Bible, which is reason number 2 why we won't tell our kids that Santa Claus is real.
I'm sorry. She's literally admitting that Santa and Jesus are like, the stories are like almost equally believable. Here we go again. It's the same thing that other people have been saying.
There is a real gift giver who gave a real gift at Christmas, who really does see you when you're sleeping and really does know when you're awake, who really does know what you do and say and think, who really is everywhere at once. And his name is God, not St. Nicholas. We don't need Father Christmas. We have God the Father, who gave us the greatest gift we could ever imagine in Christ. James 1:17.
No, I'm not listening to a Bible verse. I don't have it within me right now to be able to listen to a Bible verse, but that's hilarious. That's hilarious to me. I don't think that people see how hilarious, like, and ironic that is. Like, he sees you when you're sleeping. All these people so worried that their kids are going to question the existence of God because the story is so similar in some ways to Santa Claus, like she just said, makes me like, I'm just going to say this, like, I don't think people who are religious are stupid, but there is a part of me, right, who imagines that sometimes these beliefs are like full-grown adults who do still believe in Santa, who are running around mad at other people who don't believe in Santa too, as adults. That's how I feel when like Christians come attacking me because I don't have the same beliefs as them. Like, you remind me of someone who's stomping their feet because me as an adult woman, I just don't believe in Santa Claus anymore. And I'm going to hell for it. I'm pissing a lot of people off right now. But this is, you guys know I'm like not religious, right? I've been traumatized by religion. I would never go knocking on someone's door and tell them that their beliefs are stupid. And I don't think that people are stupid who are religious. But sometimes when you come knocking down on my door and you tell me that I've got problems because I'm not still on that page of my life, that's where I get frustrated.
With a false God and Santa Claus. And that's what he is. When you say that a man who has godlike powers, who is determining your gift share based on what you do, why present them with what amounts to a false gospel that you do nice things to get more toys? Why not instead offer them something so much better, the unconditional love of a heavenly Father?
Okay, now she's saying Santa Claus is a false god. I think we're jumping off the deep end a little bit here. I thought we said at the beginning here, and I feel like she's speaking to people who are Christians. She's saying, I'm not judging you if you decide to teach your kids about Santa. Like, everyone's different. You know how to be the best parent for your kid. But Santa Claus is a false god.
Is the gospel not a better and a more mysterious in a lot of ways and sweeter and more joy-inducing story than Santa, elves, and the North Pole?
The gospel is terrifying. The Bible is terrifying. It's full of genocide and just kids dying and women being very mistreated. The whole Jesus being crucified thing is pretty gruesome. That was like a particularly traumatizing thing for me as a kid. The concept of hell, like, wow. Yeah, I think Santa Claus and elves in the North Pole is a nicer story. How is that even a question?
All of that said, I am not of the mind that Christmas is a pagan holiday that shouldn't be celebrated with trees and lights and traditions. There is grace and goodness to be found in simple things that bring us joy.
Except for that there are a lot of people, and I've seen some TikToks of people saying that, like, you shouldn't have Christmas trees because that's idol worship, and they take a Bible verse, like, way out of context because of that. There are people who think you shouldn't even celebrate Christmas as a Jesus birthday on Christmas because it's not anywhere near what his birthday would have been according to a lot of people. And it's definitely a ripoff of pagan holidays and other gods, false gods, as you would say. They're all false gods in my book, but you know, even you're not Jesus-y enough for some Jesus-y people.
These are gifts of common grace. Hot chocolate and candy canes and snow and It's a Wonderful Life and stockings are all gifts of common grace, meaning that everyone, not just Christians, can enjoy them.
Wow, not just Christians can enjoy snow.
Hot chocolate and candy canes and snow.
I didn't know that. I'm glad. Until this point, I wasn't allowing myself to enjoy hot chocolate, like she said, because I don't believe in Jesus. So now I can go back to enjoying hot chocolate and, snow.
I think you could also, this is an alternative, talk about the person called St. Nicholas, who was a Greek bishop, his story, his generosity. That's fine. I honestly don't know that much about that story.
I mean, yeah, when you talk about like worshiping other things other than Jesus or God, because, two of them, St. Nicholas, like that's a saint, right? I grew up Catholic. There's a million saints out there, and they are people that you pray to. They are people that you can sometimes have little statues of. Like there was a statue of St. Anthony in one of my Roman relatives' houses. I would go visit them over the summer in Italy a few times, and they had a little St. Anthony statue that they would touch when they lost something, and they would find it and give the thanks to St. Anthony. It all seems very much like certain people would have a problem with it. Like even the Virgin Mary gets worship. I remember Catholic school in Florida, there was something, I think, in St. Pete where there was like a window stain that was like sort of in the shape of Mary. People were leaving like flowers and lighting candles and going and touching it and praying because they thought it was a friggin' miracle because there was a stain on a window. My class went there as a field trip. I'm not making this up. I wonder if I could look this up and find a picture of it. But my class went there on a field trip and my teacher was weeping. This is the shit I grew up with. We're gonna have people over here mad because Santa Claus is taking the spotlight off of Jesus?
There's just no time right now for competing narratives, for false gospels, and for false gods.
Have you met a Catholic? I don't know.
Found in the Jesus who left his heavenly home, humbled himself as a baby, who died a death on a cross that he didn't have to die for our sake, paying for our sins, so that we could become friends with our Creator, a holy God, have joy and peace in this life and in the next life, live forever in heaven with him. That's a better story.
It's not a better story. That is a fucked up, messed up, scary. That is a horror story. Anyway, departing from that, this next thing that she says is sort of interesting to me and kind of funny.
What do I do about my kids ruining it for other kids at school or ruining it for their cousins? And I understand. You don't want to be that kid. You don't want other parents mad at you or mad at your kid. You don't want your kid to get in trouble at school.
I worry about that with my kids. Not about Santa Claus, but about Jesus and religion. I am in Tennessee, right? I'm in the Bible Belt. I worry about this, and I'm going to teach my kids to be respectful of other people's beliefs and to not say anything and to just sort of go about your business without trying to have those conversations with people because, I grew up very Catholic. My husband is Jewish. I still maintain the holiday traditions. I'm a big fan of Christmas. It's still my favorite holiday. And my husband, who is Jewish, doesn't believe in God. He's into the culture and the history of being Jewish. We maintain the traditions because of those reasons, but he doesn't believe in God. So we're not going to bring our kids up with any belief in anything religious. It's just interesting because right now we're full-blown celebrating Hanukkah, and we're gonna do a big Christmas. I'm very excited about all of it. I get still excited like I did sort of when I was a kid now because I have kids and it's fun. It's more fun now. There's just there's no God, there's no Jesus, and I do wonder sometimes how that's gonna go over when my kid interacts with other kids that are all about Jesus. It's gonna be probably a little weird for them to see. So I'm going to have those conversations one day.
But I think it's probably like anything that you teach your kid that is countercultural. They're always going to run into people who don't think the same things they do.
Thank you, Allie Beth. I know you're talking about Santa, but this is, it's applicable to me in a very different way than you would think.
And one of the funny, beautiful, precious, admirable, but I know sometimes frustrating parts of children is that they don't have a filter.
Would she have as many good adjectives? Beautiful, funny. It's just so cute when kids do this because they don't have a filter. Would she say that in my situation? If my kid was like, you know, God's not real, right? You know, there's no Jesus, right? I'm going to teach them not to do that. But like, she seems awfully understanding of her kids doing that because they don't believe in Santa. So I just wonder if I would be given the same understanding.
They are not thinking of how can I present this information to my disagreeing friend with as much charity and nuance as possible. Like they'll just come out and say, you know, Santa's not real, right? We can definitely try. We can teach our kids to be considerate. We can have that conversation with them. Now, that's not always easy when they're super young, when they're in that toddler stage where they're understanding what you're saying, but they don't necessarily know how to apply and translate it into action. I understand that can be difficult, but we can only do the best we can. And ultimately, we're not responsible for the beliefs of other kids.
Okay. So then I'm sure she would be totally understanding because ultimately, I can do the best to teach my kids to be respectful, but ultimately, they're not responsible for the beliefs of other kids. So if they end up at some point telling another kid that there's no God or they don't believe in God or whatever, that's not my responsibility, right? She would accept that response from me. Oh, God. I don't think she was really trying to make an argument for kids that don't believe in God. Obviously, it's about Santa Claus, but it's literally the same exact premise. I mean, she did say earlier that it's like anything you teach your kid that's countercultural. Ultimately, you're just not responsible for the beliefs of other kids, right? Oops. I'm gonna do my best, but that is funny that she just made that argument for me. One of the comments on her video, we just have to read because not only does this person not like Santa Claus, they think Santa is satanic, right? Just switch those letters around. To this day, we still implement the practices of people that way back when worshipped Odin. Ever heard can't spell Santa without Satan? There we go. Santa is a false god. He is made out to be an omniscient entity that we leave offerings for. Milk and cookies. Those are offerings you're leaving to a false god when you put out milk and cookies for Santa. Only God determines the outcome of our behavior. He knows when you are sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows when you've been bad or good. Who are we wanting our children to do right by? Among all the other pagan practices associated with Christmas, Santa is an idol in which we need to repent of. Christmas nowadays is poisoning the minds of the Western world and destroying the belief systems of our Christian children. Holidays such as Easter and Christmas have deep pagan roots, and the fruit of today shows it. Jesus is now compared to the tooth fairy, Santa, and the Easter Bunny among unbelievers. I mean, yeah. Apparently among believers too now. It's also really ironic to me that this many people get upset that, you know, God being the reason for the season is something that Santa is taking away from. Like, Christmas isn't even really Christian. It has been so stolen and copied from previous religions, and people don't even realize it.
All the traditions of Christmas actually predate Christianity, and you can look it up just by going through history. There was a Roman holiday called Saturnalia, which was basically worshiping the god Saturn and just a whole time of lawlessness and craziness. Before that, there was Yule, which is basically where a lot of the traditions come from that are celebrated on Christmas. Before that, you had sun god worship and fertility goddesses, and that was heavily associated with evergreens and evergreen trees and wreaths. In a nutshell, I think all these things are associated with other religions that Christianity just ended up adopting and said, oh, well, we'll use these ways to worship God. But in the scriptures, God says he doesn't want to be worshipped like other gods. So I'm not trying to convince you, but look up Saturn, Saturnalia, Yule, sun god worship, fertility goddesses. Oh, and don't forget about Krampus.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that so many people are worried about the meaning of Christmas being ruined by other things like Santa Claus, when it's literally Christmas that has ruined the meaning of previous traditions for a long, long time. It's like you come in, you steal something that's not yours, you make it all about you, and then you get mad when other people taint it, like they're taking something from you or watering down something that was always yours, when it really never was yours to begin with.
The tradition of Santa actually comes from the tradition of the Oak King and the Holly King. And Santa is actually the Holly King, who dies at this time of year and gives way to the Oak King to bring back the springtime, because the Oak King reigns during the spring and summer and the Holly King reigns during the fall and winter.
Even Santa Claus is a ripoff of a story, guys. Like, all of this is just repeated tradition. Just like Christmas and all the like little traditions that go along with Christmas and Santa, all of this is all connected, and this has been going on for a long time. It's not stepping on the toes of Christians. It's actually quite literally the opposite. But like I said, this video just keeps getting crazier and crazier, so let's listen to this guy.
What would Jesus say about Christmas? Well, that's an excellent question, and I've got my own opinion on that, and I believe that Jesus would say, why are you guys celebrating my birthday when it's not my birthday?
He's really not wrong yet, but let's just keep going.
And I think if Jesus saw everybody and told us exactly what he thought about celebrating his birthday on December 25th, he would say that you are all celebrating my birthday in honor of the sun god, Horus.
Yeah, Horus is one of many gods that resemble Jesus in a lot of ways. There's like Mithras, there's a lot. Look through it, but the story ripoffs are pretty ridiculous.
Horus, where they used to sacrifice babies to please him. And if you really think, if December 25th was actually a day of sacrifice of babies, how many babies would they have had to please Horus? Well, quite a few, I would imagine. Well, how many months does it take a baby? Because people want to be prepared, they want to plan ahead. So that brings us back 9 months prior to Christmas. Where? Easter.
You know what's funny is me being pregnant right now. I found out that I was pregnant the day I found out was Easter. And now I'm like about to pop and it's almost Christmas. I promise it's not with the intent of child sacrifice to Horus, but it's just interesting hearing him say all this. I'm like, that time's out.
Easter, which is also another god, Ishtar, the god of war and fertility, which is why there's rabbits and eggs, was actually a pagan holiday that was observed by basically having an orgy.
Oh, this is so difficult to get through. I want to keep playing. I'm just going to keep playing it.
So everybody got together on Easter, had a lot of sex, so 9 months later there'd be a lot of babies. And coincidentally, when all those babies were born, old Horus was there December 25th, wanting you to slice them open.
Whew, okay, I bet the Christians love this. Next time it's Easter, just be like, you guys know Easter's all about orgies, right? See how people react.
And sacrifice the babies to him. And then here we are, thousands of years later, celebrating baby Jesus' birthday on Christmas, when in reality on Christmas was a sacrificial day where millions of babies were slaughtered, and that is what I think he would think. How dare you?
How dare you? Well, that was a lot. I mean, there is some like biblical history if you look through to child sacrifice that does resonate with what he's actually saying. So there's that. But is that really all that surprising? I mean, literally God is the one that sent the plague to kill all the firstborns. Like, God's all about killing babies if you're really thinking about it. Not to mention the kid that made fun of the bald kid and then got mauled by a bear in the woods. Like, God just really isn't friendly to children in general. Moving on, I'm going to step away from some of the religious stuff. Well, actually, no, I'm not, because we haven't talked about the Jewish thing I said I found, and then there's like a Muslim thing really quick. So I'm going to end with those because to me, it's kind of funny.
Like, so you told them Santa was real at a certain point.
I haven't told my 1-year-old is just a baby. I don't even know what language she speaks. My 7-year-old, we did tell her this Christmas that she asked if one of my uncles was Santa. And I'm like, he's not Santa, but he's not Santa. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she was like, okay. And then she was like, are you and Mom Santa? And I was like, we're not Santa, but we're not Santa. And she was like, oh, okay. She's like, so in a way, everybody's mom and dad is Santa. And I was like, yeah.
Oh, that's kind of poetic.
I was like,
what
yes.
about Jewish kids, though?
What? That I feel like that came out of nowhere.
Well, we haven't talked to her about the Jews yet.
Okay.
We've told her right now to just kind of be aware.
Okay. He's making a joke, I think. I think he's trying to be be aware. Watch out for those Jews, those Santa-hating, anti-Christmas Jews. You know, Jewish people aren't the only ones that don't believe in Santa Claus, right? The meanest kids to other kids that still believe in Santa are kids that once themselves were told that Santa was real. Or maybe they grew up in a household where their parents were religious but didn't want to take the spotlight off of Jesus, so they told their kids that Santa wasn't real. Maybe they even said Santa was a false god, for example, and now these kids are going to school super angry, making fun of other kids that believe in Santa Claus. That seems more likely than the Jews. If you're worried about the Jews, you might want to be more worried about them saying that they don't believe in Jesus, because that's, you know, also a thing. Careful about all those Jews in schools not believing in Jesus. And we're not even gonna touch the atheists. Those atheist parents sending their damn kids to our Christian schools. And by Christian schools, I just mean public schools, but you know what I mean. In the Bible Belt, they're Christian schools. And then there's this guy who is a Muslim, and I feel sort of bad for him. This video is like cute and sweet, and then someone else comes in and like shits on it.
So I'm a Muslim, and I do celebrate Christmas, okay? I get my family gifts, I get my brother, parents a gift. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't lie, I don't cheat, I pray. I feel like I'm a good Muslim. So just because I'm festive, I celebrate Christmas, doesn't make me a bad person.
Subhanallah. Okay.
Okay. First of all, the guy, in the first clip, he seems really sweet, right? And I feel bad that he feels the need to like go online and try to like defend himself because he knows that fellow, you know, Muslims are going to bash him, or, you know, super religious people at least are going to bash him for his choices. And he's just trying to say like, I'm still a good Muslim. I'm still like, I believe and I do all the things, but like, I enjoy this time of year with my family. And that's all he wants to say. It like breaks my heart because, you know, he's literally doing this because he's probably getting attacked for it. And here is this video of him getting attacked for it.
لَقَدْ كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الْمَسِيحُ ابْنُ مَرْيَمَ. They have disbelieved the ones who have said that Allah himself is Jesus. There are so many other verses that I can mention, but the point is that Allah has made it crystal clear that this is something that he hates and it's something that he condemns. So by going out of our way as Muslims and glorifying and celebrating and contributing towards a day and a celebration that raises the status of Jesus to God is something that is unacceptable in Islam, and there's no two ways about it.
Putting up a tree and like getting presents for your family is not raising the status of Jesus to God. Okay? I got a tree in my living room, and that's not something we believe in my house. Let people buy presents for the family members that they love. Let people put up a damn tree. Let people decorate. Let people sing songs. Let people be merry and festive and have a good time. Doesn't have to be about Jesus. Like, I feel bad for this guy. Even he's getting it.
Allah has made it crystal clear that this is something that he hates and it's something that he condemns.
He literally just puts up a video saying, I enjoy being festive and I like getting my family presents. And then this guy is like, God hates you. It just feels intense and a little unnecessary. So like I said, I wanted to get through this video because the Santa topic is interesting to me. I really haven't gotten to the point of having to make a decision on that yet. With just a 2-year-old and a 0-year-old, I haven't really had to have like real conversations about it. I personally don't find an issue with it. I don't think it's all that bad of a thing. I think it was actually really a great part of my childhood. So, everyone's gonna have conflicting opinions on that. I'll get to my own conclusion one day, but until then, this was really interesting to me, just to see how many religious people were so offended by it. All kinds of religions apparently, super offended by Christmas. The way people do Christmas, whether or not they do Santa. It just brings me back to the thing that I feel like I'm saying on repeat all of the time. Just let people live their damn lives. It doesn't affect you. Let people live their damn lives. Stop. If you don't like something, don't apply that thing to your life and then move on with it. But don't feel the need to go out of your way to like point your finger at other people and tell them they're doing it wrong. Anyway, with that, I hope Santa brings all of you coal. Just kidding. I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday, Hanukkah right now, if you're celebrating Hanukkah, or Christmas. Or if you don't celebrate Christmas, I hope you don't have a Merry Christmas. So then fine. If you love Jesus, I hope your Christmas is extra Jesus-y. And if you don't, I hope that you just have a great time. Do you, and stop trying to do everybody else. It's not Easter yet, Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you when I see you. I don't know when I'm gonna be back. I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna go take care of this. Due date is the 12th, but who knows? And I'll see you back next year. Happy New Year. Thanks for being on my channel and subscribing. I've been doing this for a long time. many, many years I've been here. So I appreciate people who are sticking around, even though I'm going to take a little bit of a break right now. I appreciate you guys for, caring. If you want to keep up with like what's going on in my life, you can watch my vlog channel, Jacqueline Vlogs. I'll be posting updates about like my health and everything that happens. Hoping for the best, hoping it goes well. It went really well last time, so 2 easy deliveries would be great, but you never know. Wish me luck, send me prayers. And yeah, I'll see you when I see you. 2024.